The beauty of films, I've just decided now, is that they can make you feel. They can show you profound love and poignant loss, they can embolden you and knock you down, and they can be the light that leads you out of the darkest fog, or, well, pretty much just dump you in one. Just as you remember the harshest heartbreak and the densest grief, the films that leave gaping emotional wounds tend to be the most memorable. I'm not going to mess about with a long intro here, guys, because having adapted this script, I am already an emotional wreck. I'm the jabbering, quivering mess of Adam Cleary, and these are 7 movies that totally destroy you. Number 7, Melancholia. Lars von Trier's Melancholia is all about sadness, making its title about as subtle as a roundhouse to the dangles. The first half follows Justine suffering through an intense depressive episode on her wedding night, while the second focuses on her sister Claire's struggle to come to terms with the fact the world is about to end, or a Saturday night in, as I call that. The first chapter is just abject misery put to screen, full of uncomfortable, intimate sequences of self-destruction. Watching Dunt's character on what is supposed to be the happiest day of her life completely crumble while under the watchful eye of her friends and family is horrible, in part because it's, well, so accurately depicted. You would think a theme shift into Armageddon would be a bit easier to watch, but Trier being Trier makes the apocalyptic scenario perfectly reflect the crippling fatalism Justine feels every single day. Strong relate. Number 6, About Time. Now, sure, yes, Toy Story 3 is the greatest examination of mortality. It is, but the whole point of that movie is to offer hope and a happy ending despite everything else. About Time, on the other hand, basically just says, everything you love will die, and if you spend too much time wallowing in the past, you'll just destroy yourself. It's a heavy message for a romantic sci-fi about time traveling, admittedly, but that's arguably why it's such a successful film. We watch Domhnall Gleeson's Tim discover his ability to travel back in time, guided by his sage father. Everything's hunky-dory until it turns out his father has terminal cancer via the revelation that Tim's accidentally wiped his own child out of existence, and no time traveling can fix it. I'll not spoil it all if you haven't already seen it, but the final reveal is about as close as you can get to literally having your heart plucked out. Number 5, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. While breakups are a great excuse to eat entire tubs of ice cream and rock up to work in the middle of the week honking of tequila, there are also some downsides. Eternal Sunshine's premise of, if you could erase all those painful memories of your ex, would you, is something we've all considered. We've all seen it. The film jumps through different stages of the duo's relationship, from the great honeymoon period to the bitter breakdown at the end, and it follows so many beats that are all too real for most people watching. It's a sad enough film in its own right, but the final revelation that the two have been involved in this cycle of dating and deleting each other for years and are subsequently destined to repeat the process over and over again is one of cinema's great gut wrenches. Number 4, One Day. The best romantic films are, just like the best romances, the ones that hurt a little bit. When Harry Met Sally puts its characters through the ringer, The Notebook likewise, and even Blue Valentine is beautiful to watch in its own heart-stomping way, but more on that later. You can also add One Day to this pile as well, since it has one of the most horribly effective emotional rug pulls in the history of film. It's essentially just a long-play romance where two friends slowly realize they are made for each other, until the unpleasantness. And just as you think they're going to get a happy ending, the plot drops 2 bombshells on them. Actually, no, sorry, I take that back. It drops 1 bombshell on them, that they can't have a baby, and then, quite literally, drives a truck over Anne Hathaway. Love, happiness, hope, everything all gone. Just like that, I have no idea why I agreed to do this list. Number 3, Up. When thinking of movies that leave you a hollowed-out mess, sitting alone in the dark, gently rocking back and forth, it's usually the ending that does that to you. Up, though, you know, the film that's ostensibly for kids, manages it in its opening 15 minutes. With a montage telling the love story of Carl and Ellie that is more romantic, more emotionally affecting, more poignant, and more devastating than most grown-up movies manage in 2 hours. It begins as a heartwarming tale of falling in love, sharing dreams, and growing older together, which turns into a heart-wrenching echo of loss and loneliness. However, as much as that opening is guaranteed to have you reaching for the tissues, you'll be going back to the box by the end of the thing as well. Number 2, Dear Zachary, a letter to his son about his father. Without a doubt, Dear Zachary is one of the most personal films ever made. That's because the bulk of the documentary is about the director's close friend, Andrew Bagby, who was murdered by his ex-lover, Shirley Jane Temple, in 2001. Initially intended to be nothing more than a home movie for Andrew's son Zachary, hence the title, as the narrative develops, the focus shifts. Events slowly unfold into one of the most compelling and tragic true crime tales ever put to film. While the real-life events themselves are harrowing enough, it's their impact on the rest of Bagby's family that's the most heartbreaking. The fallout of his death never seems to end, haunting them for years and years to come, with his parents in particular moving from one horror to the next. Number 1, Blue Valentine. You always hurt the ones you love, and Blue Valentine makes this statement unbearably true. Playing out in 2 different timelines, it features a young couple at the very outset of their courtship and years later at the end of their marriage. Ryan Gosling and Michelle Williams both post career best performances, in my opinion, and it simultaneously manages to make your heart swell and break like some balloon full of crap and inevitability. It effortlessly switches from the heady butterflies in the stomach romance to the gutting, desperate fight for their relationship, and honestly lads, this film is about 80% of the reason I'm single. The other 20's just my awful personality. But the real tragedy / brilliance of this movie, delete as appropriate, lies in how Dean and Cindy can't stop loving each other just as sure as they can't stop hurting each other, with their daughter constantly caught in the middle. It's love, it's hate, it's the need to let go and the need to cling on, and I am never, ever doing a video like this again. Thanks.